Okay.
I got to clear that voice.
Yeah, you know. Yeah. We don't have water, so.
I know. We should have.
Casey Gale.
What's up, Maikon?
What's up, bro?
Just chilling. Yeah.
How you been?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me on.
It's been.
We talked about it a little bit.
Hell yeah, it's been a wild ride. You know, since I met you.
Yeah. So
it's gonna be a cool, interesting conversation to have.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
So, where you from, Casey?
I'm from Utah. Born and raised here. Grew up. My family had an apartment in South Salt Lake, and then moved to West Jordan as a kid, and then grew up in like South Jordan, and then I live in West Jordan now.
Damn. What got you involved in the politics? Did you always want to do politics when you were young?
No. To be honest, I was completely apathetic to politics for years, and it wasn't until kind of recent things happening that I decided to get involved. You know, they say when it knocks on your door, you know, that's when kind of the chickens come home to roost and you start paying attention more. And, you know, someone knocked on my door who was campaigning for a candidate in State House District 36 here in Utah.
Really?
Jim Dunnigan is the incumbent Republican in 2022, that cycle.
Ooh.
And a candidate named Lynette Wendell was running for that seat, and as an independent, touted herself as a Second Amendment supporting, you know, kind of borderline conservative, is what she tried to campaign as, and or at least that's what my perception was based on who knocked on my door, and or maybe a moderate Democrat, or maybe not quite a Republican. Well, I talked with Miss Wendell over text, and she refused to answer. I pressed her 5 times on how she would vote on a bill that would involve gender reassignment surgery for children. And, you know, she kept saying things like, you know, I'd have to see the bill. I'm not an expert. What would you feel? And I tried to like keep it very neutral so she couldn't gauge how I would respond, right? Like asking her how she would vote on a bill for gender reassignment for prepubescent persons, right? Trying to keep that general, real neutral language so she couldn't gauge whether I was on one side or the other of the aisle, and maybe even leaning more towards the, you know, the Democrat or the socialist side, right? And she refused to answer that after pressing her, and it kind of got me involved. And after pressing her 5 times, I went and showed up at Dunnigan's office and met him and talked to him and asked him just like a couple basic questions, and asked him how he'd vote on the bill. And he told me straight up that he would not support gender reassignment surgery for children. He'd vote to oppose that legislation. He'd vote to ban it. And, you know, I can't remember how many doors I knocked for him, you know, to help him close out the election from October to November. But I remember trouncing around hundreds of doors in the snow, and a couple of people like got really mad, you know, that you know, I was knocking on their door on a Sunday, or you know, knocking on their door, you know, at 9 o'clock at night when it's dark outside. But I mean, I felt like guided that I needed to knock on more doors and tell people who this individual was that he was running against. Are you in love with like that? Because I mean, it kind of feels like a door-to-door salesman. You know, it's like, are you in love with the rejection? You know, I fell in love with rejection through a past career that I had that we won't get into, but I fell in love with the idea of rejection and chasing the no, and you know, you gotta focus on how many yeses you can get by churning through the no's, and I kind of fell in love with that idea, and that's I guess something that guided me, but it really wasn't the most pressing thing that guided me. To be honest, the thing that guided me is I felt a sense of spirituality when I was out talking to people and helping show, you know, I would show the text messages. I printed them out on paper and I would show them to these voters, you know, who this individual was and what she was refusing to answer. Yeah. And, you know, so I'm not lying. I'm showing them the exact text message that she's sending me and having them, you know, see for themselves what things looked like. And there was a number of people that, you know, I talked to that weren't planning on voting that thanked me for coming and talking to them, and they made it a priority to vote. And I think that's the balance of chasing the no and kind of that addiction that you have, and the social benefit of helping out your fellow man, and the spiritual side of it was something that really I fell in love with, and it's fun.
Yeah, you know so much about politics, bro. And just like things that have happened in the past, were you in love with that before? Like you had a call, or did you just start studying as soon as you felt something?
No, I've been, I would say, for years a casual observer. And I mean, going back, I was someone when I was 18 years old, my mom told me who to vote for and why to vote for them. I didn't pay attention. I was extremely apathetic, and I bought into, the idea of being a conservative or a Republican because I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in pro-life issues. I believe in a limited government, right? Yeah. And that's kind of from the foundational upbringing through, like the U.S. history courses and stuff that you take in school, but and a little bit of learning, but no real, I guess, formal education regarding politics. I didn't go to poli-sci classes or anything like that. I think one of the things that got me paying attention was I told people I voted for George Bush in 2004. I saw what he was doing. The whole cover up with $2 trillion goes missing, and the next day the Twin Towers are blown up.
Yeah.
Super sus. And
yeah, super.
And then I saw the healthcare system being a little bit broken, which it is. It still is. It's way more broken now than it ever was. But I was a casual observer, and I kind of turned into a single issue voter in the 2008 election. I voted for Barack Obama and Joe Biden for president in 2008.
Wow.
And I started watching that, and you start paying attention when you vote for someone. And then I watched what he did. And I mean, it wasn't even a couple of weeks and I was regretting that decision and thinking, oh, wow, this guy's insane. Yeah.
It's funny how that changes, right? When you pay more attention once you vote.
Yeah.
It's a funny
100%.
thing.
100%. Once you get in, you kind of can't get back out once you really develop a passion. And I still, I would say at that time wasn't really ingratiated. I regretted seeing everything that Obama was doing, like an executive order allowing the press to propagandize the American public. That really frustrates me, and that seems like some stuff that we've seen, with communistic, dictatorships. Yeah. And it just doesn't seem like America when the press is going to go intentionally lie and push a political agenda down the public's throat. I mean, I don't think that we should be telling people what to think. I think we should be teaching people how to think.
Oof, yeah, that's very true, bro. Why do you think the U.S. healthcare system is so broken? Well,
at the time, my father's a retired firefighter now, but at the time he was a firefighter. My mom works for another organization that had health insurance. I won't get into her career; she's not retired yet, And so I had this overlapping health insurance coverage, and it seemed odd that I had to pay for a deductible up front and then file for reimbursement. And it was just such a niche, little tiny segment that I was looking at, right? I wasn't evaluating the whole political spectrum of Barack Obama's issues. It was just I saw things that were broken, and I didn't trust George Bush covering up for everything that his dad was doing, and kind of the really the establishment regime that Bush is a part of. I didn't like that, and I was very frustrated with it. And I saw a single issue, and I voted based on that single issue. And it was really a very narrow scope of that single issue. Is that I didn't like paying for a deductible up front and then having to wait for reimbursement. It seems ridiculous now looking back, but that's really what it boiled down to. Yeah. And then I saw everything that he was doing. I started regretting that, and I really fell in love with politics more, and kind of got more into waded further into the water, I guess you could say, when Trump was clowning on Obama with the birth certificate issue.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
One of the funniest things ever.
So funny, bro.
And I thought it was great entertainment, and it was just this beautiful blend of entertainment and politics. And you start going down like the many people call the conspiracy theory rabbit hole with the font and the year the font came out, and the year of the birth certificate and things with Kenya, and it was entertaining. And then a series of other events I started to pay attention to things with Edward Snowden and Julian Assange, with WikiLeaks and everything that Snowden kind of released, started to kind of slowly wake me up. And I dove down some of those rabbit holes, but I paid attention, but I wasn't doing anything. I would be I called myself a vocal asshole at the time, where I'd talk to people in person, at work, or just post on social media my thoughts without doing anything about it. I wasn't going and knocking doors. I wasn't going to any events. I wasn't trying to bring anybody into the movement.
There's a lot of people out there that are like that.
Yeah, I think that's the bulk of society.
Yeah. So true.
And so with that, I felt like I was doing my part, I guess you could say. But I had no idea that, how much more impactful you can be when you actually start doing something behind, maybe along with, being the troll on social media.
Yeah. So I think, for the time that I've known you, I think you might be the person who owns the most Trump hats I've ever seen. Why is that?
Well, I really appreciate and respect and really admire and love Donald Trump. I think that he's done wonderful things for our country. How many people really knew how bad Mitt Romney was before Donald Trump, or that the establishment and the military-industrial complex and just this deep web of cabal even existed before Trump?
Yeah, a lot of people didn't.
Right?
A lot of people didn't.
Like, it started when JFK got, assassinated. A lot of people had conspiracies, and there was a lot of thoughts and a lot of deep dive, but that kind of slowly started to fade away over 40-something years.
It did. And do you think that kind of Trump coming in made a shift in the politics world, and the whole government?
I think Trump coming in and running for president really shook things up, and because, Hillary Clinton, everybody predicted her to win. I think it was like 85-15 or something that they were predicting, Hillary to win, and it shocked the media, it shocked everyone when Trump won, and immediately we start seeing the stuff with the Russia collusion, which turned out to be fake, and just fake story after fake story attacking Trump and his credibility, trying to prevent him from doing anything, when he's the guy that was actually doing things that political leaders in our country have talked about for decades. Richard Nixon, for God's sake, was talking about building the wall.
Yeah.
And every president has, in our country, a presidential candidate, or major presidential candidate anyway, has talked about the need for border security.
100%.
And Trump's the first guy that actually put his money where his mouth is and started doing anything about it, and where we got segments of the wall built, and large segments of the wall. It was nearly complete by the end of his first term, and it would have been complete at the end of his second term.
That's it's funny how you said how you started with the Obama election.
Yeah,
you voted for him, and then immediately you're like, oh, what the hell?
Yeah, it
never happened with Trump because you voted for him. I voted for him,
and look, Trump, he's a bit crass. He's he's a rebel rouser.
He's himself. I really do believe that when you're yourself, then people really like it. You're never gonna make people happy.
100%. You hit the nail on the head.
You're gonna make people love you because but the people who really hate you, they're really gonna hate you.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Trump is so authentic.
Yeah.
Good or bad, whatever you get from Trump, he's the guy that, in the movie Man of the Year, Robin Williams talks about, his character talks about, how good it would be if politicians were like NASCAR and they had who they were sponsored by on their sleeves. Well, you don't really see a lot of that with politicians, but you do see how Trump is. He wears his heart on his sleeve with how he's going to govern, how he's going to be, his personality. He's so authentic. He didn't change who he was as a person from his candidacy to his presidency. And, he didn't create World War III. In fact, he probably stopped World War III with North Korea and that whole escalation that happened. Yeah. And, he stopped a lot of the conflict around the world with the Abraham Accords in the Middle East. And, he was working on getting our troops out of Afghanistan. It just wasn't the right time at that moment when he was in office. But I think Trump embodies a lot of the things that Americans care about. People. I was having a conversation the other day with somebody. When you're a kid growing up in school, whether it be your mom or your dad, somebody's got your back to go talk to your teacher or the school administrator if something doesn't go the way that it's supposed to go. Yeah. Right? Somebody's got your back. They're there to fight along with you and stand up for you. And I look at that as that's the way that our representative republic should work. Our state legislators, our members of Congress should be there to have our back as the people, where it's our government to stand for us and represent our issues. Yeah. And if there's something that's going on that's affecting us, that's unjust, they should be there to champion that cause. And they're not. And Trump is the first guy that I've ever seen that I truly in my heart believe does that.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because, Elon Musk fully endorsed Donald Trump, and he's giving him $45 million a month, right?
Well, I'd have to look into that. I saw a news story that says that maybe that wasn't accurate. So,
he was speaking about it in a rally, right?
Yeah. He was speaking about potentially giving or funding a PAC with $45 million a month.
Yeah, but it was so interesting because he's so authentic, he was like, that means a lot. Thank you. Yeah. But electric cars are not for everybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then it made me think like anybody who got $45 million a month would be like, hey, let me kiss your feet. Let me go with you. Right. Let me go in your way, right? And then he's able to be like, no. There's still things that we need to look into it. It's really interesting how he's so authentic that he couldn't lie or he couldn't pander to a certain thing just because somebody's giving him that much money.
Yeah, well, it was funny. I agree. And it was funny, a tweet stands out of Elon's. He gets headlines like no tomorrow, right? But Gavin Newsom commented on Elon Musk and put a picture of Truth Social comment that Trump put out about Elon and said that after Trump did this, you bent the knee or something. I
saw that.
And then Elon said, it was the funniest thing ever. You never got off your knees. It was hilarious.
See, I love when people clap back, even in the higher ups. I love that because it's authentic.
Well, that's the funnest part about Twitter or X, right? Is you can, you can have those quick wit comments, or you can put actually engaging content out, and it's kind of a blend of both, right? And then there's video and the spaces. Twitter's addicting, or X, it's addicting. It is. I probably spent more time than I should on there.
Yeah, talking about Twitter, I feel like you're a very polarizing figure.
Yeah,
on Twitter.
A little bit.
Yeah,
How
did that came to happen?
Well, I guess I'll kind of go back to answer. It'll kind of be a little bit on my involvement in the party and growing. So I started after I started knocking doors for that candidate and Jim got reelected. I decided I'd figure out what else I could do, right? What else I could do to make an impact. And, Scott Presser's somebody that I very much admire. His hard work, his dedication to registering voters and growing the party and the movement is incredible, and it's unparalleled. So I started watching some of his videos on voter registration and outreach and communication, and I went and started trying to register voters, and I got kind of frustrated one night, and trying to register voters, is I didn't feel like I was making the progress that I really wanted to make. And there was a Twitter space that I was in. It was hosted by Phenomenology is her Twitter handle, Barry, and she was hosting a space, and Scott was in that space, and I didn't even know that he was in the audience, and I was talking about, I can't remember how the conversation unfolded, but essentially it was, I asked for a mic, and I was asking for, tips and tricks for some people, and immediately Scott jumped up, and we started talking. We connected. He sent me his number, and we started talking offline, and he did some coaching for a while on voter registration and voter outreach. And part of that was he encouraged me with the voters that I would register to post a selfie with them and post a picture on Twitter. And so I was doing that for quite some time. And then it became, I needed to find like why I was registering voters, right? Why they should register to vote now when it's December or January or February, right, of 2023, right? We're not in an election year. We're on an off-cycle year. We're, in a municipal election year, not a general election, right? And so it was, what was this about? And, well, a guy that I, really came to detest over time was Mitt Romney, due to some of his antics and, being the voice that, tried to convict Trump in the Senate, and the sole Republican. Yeah. And the more I kind of dug into Romney, the more I really disliked the guy. Yeah. And he may be a great father, maybe a great person, but as a senator, not happy with him. No. So, I kind of grew a bit of a Twitter following. It's still really small, but there's others with significantly larger followings. But I grew a little bit of a following, larger than most people in Utah, by doing that. And Scott encouraged me to run for the governing body of the party, the State Central Committee of the Utah GOP. And so I did, and I got the first alternate position. And our chairman, Rob Axon, was representing the same county. So when he became the chair, I automatically was then moved into as the first alternate to the State Central Committee. And I didn't miss getting elected by much. It was like 7 votes, and I was completely unknown. People had no idea who I was. I hadn't been around, so that's kind of how growing the Twitter following kind of came about. And then I continued to go to gun shows and register voters, and go to like sportsman's type businesses, Shields, Sportsman's Warehouse, Cabela's, and register voters just outside in the parking lot, and just go and talk to people that I knew would likely be a conservative, and just make sure they were registered to vote.
Why do you think there's some people out there who don't like you?
Well, I'm a bit crass. So over time, the Twitter, I was kind of getting to that. The Twitter kind of evolved, and I started seeing some things that registering voters and growing the party, where we have a super majority in Utah of Republicans, isn't the most pressing thing that I saw. What I saw is that Utah has elected a bunch of milquetoast people to certain offices in Utah that don't represent the Republican brand. Like, for example, we have Republicans that are paying for transgender surgeries. They're declaring June Pride Month. They're allowing biological men in women's restrooms, and just stuff that you would never think in a million years a conservative person, even if you don't understand anything about the Republican platform other than they're conservatives. Somebody that's conservative doesn't think that, typically that a man should be in the women's restroom. That doesn't, that's progressive, that, mentality, not conservative mentality. Yeah. And so I saw Republicans doing that kind of stuff, and it really irked me, right? Yeah. Why would we allow that? And so I started calling people out, like State Senator Todd Weiler. I kept calling people out, and I was a bit crass in doing so, and tried to be a little bit comedic in kind of calling people out, but crafting a tweet in a way that is quick, easy to understand, and drills the point is kind of the purpose of Twitter. I would not purpose, but it's a way to be effective on Twitter, I guess, maybe, or partially effective, and in my experience, and I've kind of done that with and raised some awareness of how bad some of these politicians are and how much they suck. And I'm reminded of a tweet that Mike Lee put out that says, "We need Republicans who don't suck," and that kind of embodies that thought process that I've had for a couple of years now with, engaging on Twitter with legislators or representatives that suck, from Todd Weiler to Amy Winter Newton to Amelia Powers Gardner and a lot of the establishment-minded folks here in Utah.
Do you think there's a big fake Republican problem in Utah?
Huge. Not just fake Republican, but I think there's also fake activist problem, where there's people that present themselves as grassroots Republicans, but in reality they are the antithesis of grassroots Republicans.
Wow.
And
where did you think that started?
Well,
because Utah has always been a super Republican, conservative state, right?
Well, I'm reminded of when Utah got involved, the LDS Church got involved with Proposition 8 in California, and that potentially could be some of it. Through the course of Utah's election history, in 2014, Utah passed a law kind of in response to two things. Jason Chaffetz, former congressman, he beat Chris Cannon in his congressional run. And Cannon was an established guy, and Jason Chaffetz kind of grew his following very quickly and ousted the incumbent Republican running for re-election in Congress. And then another cycle, Mike Lee ousted Bob Bennett. And I think that there was a response from the establishment wing of the party that were like, "Hey, enough's enough. We're going to change this." And so they launched in 2013. I think it was 2013. I'd have to double check, but they launched universal mail-in ballots. And Utah's the only red state that has that. And then in 2014, they launched what Trent Staggs is referring to as the Rino Protection Act. And really what that law is it doesn't allow the Republican Party to determine who its nominee is, by the convention pathway. And it allows people to pay for signatures to bypass the convention system. And so what that created is it created opportunities for businesses to pay people to go be grassroots activists and go knock doors and push a candidate, instead of by pushing it from a passion and, "Hey, I really like this guy, Maikon. You got to hear about him. Here's what he stands. Here's where he stands on this. Here's where he stands on that. Or here's how, she stands on this, and here's what she's going to do about that." It's now somebody that's getting paid to go and tell people about a candidate.
Yeah, and this would refer to SB 54, right? Yeah,
so that's SB 54, and there's companies out there that are utilized by individuals. Just, you could think of them as like a gun for hire, that go gather signatures to bypass that caucus system. Gather Inc. is one of them. That's the one that Spencer Cox used this election. And
weren't they in a criminal investigation?
Well, so I don't know if it was Gather Inc. or if it was someone that worked as an independent contractor for Gather Inc. that's under criminal investigation. But supposedly there's an investigation into the signatures. But when you reach out to, one of the things that's super interesting is they've denied grammar requests for Micah Clara to see the signatures for Cox and then the signatures for Todd Weiler, who also used Gather Inc. Or not Todd Weiler. I'm mistaken here. Don Ibsen in Washington County, to see those signatures. They've denied those requests because the signatures are under investigation. Well, when you try to find a police report for that investigation, doesn't doesn't exist apparently.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, you can't look at this because of this. Okay, well, prove that exists. We don't have to prove that to you. We're not going to do that. And it's very slimy.
Yeah.
The purpose of a political party and the members of that party is to band together to ensure that the people that espouse those ideals can collaborate and work together to ensure they get a candidate of their choosing elected. And when the candidate of the party, the party is chosen that they've heavily vetted and they've looked at all things in consideration, the campaign finance contributions, to their position on all the different platform planks, to their preparedness and willingness, their preparedness and can they do the job? Do they have the skill sets and the attributes to be successful in that job? Do they have a team that they could do that job with? Or will they be able to do that independently? Will they represent the people? Will they represent the political party or not? And when SB 54 exists and there's people that, I mean, look at most voters. They're going to the kids' soccer games. They're going to their daughter's ballerina recitals, or, they're teaching their kids, how to change a flat tire or change the brakes, or they're coaching their kids in, some musical, element, or they're teaching their kids how to navigate social media and not be a victim.
Yeah.
Or they're teaching they're talking to their kids and guiding them through their dating life. No. As their adolescents and early adults. They're teaching foundational principles, and that's what a good parent should do, right? Is spend their time focusing on their family and raising responsible adults, and and providing for them, working a job, maybe a side hustle, and so a lot of people don't have that time or the passion to spend 100 hours vetting a candidate like some delegates have spent, right? And so it's unfortunate that we have SB 54 that will, kind of ignore the party's choice with people that have spent, untold amounts of time to dig in and do their homework on a candidate.
And that was my issue. I feel like because I as a new voter, I came into the caucus convention and all of those things, learning about these people, like meeting them and talking to them. And then the whole thing where Cox happens, where he says that, the next day after he loses to Phil Lyman, he's like, that only represents 1% of Republicans, right? Yeah. And then you see the results in this primary, and it's 46%. Like, that's a crazy difference than what they have going on in their mind. Mm-hmm. So did they do that to kind of trick people in order to be like, oh yeah, that's true? Or, that's when it gets tricky. Like they're trying to discount that caucus convention and the people who really care about this party.
Yeah. Well, something that really stood out to me in Cox's victory speech, right?
Yeah.
Was that he said that these people aren't conservatives. Ugh. They're populists.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that says it all, and it all right there, because the opposite of populism is elitism, right? Elitism to represent like a super niche amount of people and populist, Google what populist looks like, or maybe throw it on the screen.
You taught me what populist and the difference from that.
A government ran by the people for the people would be a government of populists deciding who's going to, represent them, and then those elected representatives going and espousing the ideals that they've been entrusted to represent from their constituents.
Yeah,
it's very interesting. So, So like I mentioned a minute ago, there was some things that I felt like were very much a larger issue within Utah, and it's accountability. It's we need Republicans that don't suck, like Mike Lee said, and 100%. And there's a lot of Republicans that, the supermajority of the Utah House of Representatives and the Utah State Senate just gave taxpayer-funded stadiums to not just one but two billionaires, and also a gondola to another guy.
And see, that's the thing. It's like, why do those billionaires need the government?
You know, I'm all for private equity. I'm all for if the billionaires, Gail Miller and Ryan Smith wanted to go and invest their capital to go and build a stadium, they're going to get the ROI.
Go ahead, yeah.
They're going to get the ROI. You know, going to jazz games or the Utah Hockey Club games or whatever they're going to call that team. You know, they're going to get that, and taxpayers shouldn't be burdened with that. You know, even if it is a very narrow area that you're increasing the taxes to pay for those stadiums, it's not ethical to say that average Joe that's working a job should have to pay for that stadium. Yeah. It's just wrong.
It's really wrong.
And so, you know, with the Republicans that really don't, in my opinion, espouse the ideals of the party. There's a few that on the governing board, we've tried to take some action to hold some accountability over.
Yeah.
It was widely known that there was an attempted censure going to come about of Amy Winter Newton. And that censure, we tried to bring that censure forth. Somehow that ended up in the media. It was very odd that it ended up in the media because within the bylaws, the stopgap for that was that any conversation about, you know, censure, bringing forth censure on someone should remain confidential and private.
Yeah.
And amongst the governing body of the party. And so the person that was going to bring that censure forth found that it was going to be ruled out of order. And I don't know exactly how that conversation worked out, but we decided that we would change how that was brought forth and bring it forth in a different manner. Well, we tried to bring forth a different resolution of censure of a different elected official, Todd Weiler. And it was very interesting while we were in that meeting. There was a state senator, Mike McKell, that tweeted about the censure attempt while we're in the meeting. And so there's someone that's in the state central committee that's leaking stuff to establishment legislators, trying to run interference and maybe protect them. And you know, that's a bit concerning where we can't have a conversation as the governing body of the party as to whether we're going to, you know, hold accountability over a legislator or someone that represents our brand in public office. And, you know, without, you know, and keep that confidential. So while that was transpiring, I went to the microphone and I made a motion to investigate, I asked how we could do so. Let me clarify. I asked how we could bring those forth and prevent that type of thing from transpiring so that it would stay confidential the way that our bylaws, you know, with Robert's rules being part of those bylaws, call for. And I didn't get a clear answer for that. I still don't have a clear answer for that. And so we've tried to bring forth censure 2 times. That didn't work. And we tried to shift gears and bring forth, instead of a censure, a resolution of no confidence. And I won't say who we tried to bring those forth against, but we tried to bring forth a resolution of no confidence. I can say that, you know, some of the individuals that were impacted by that were able to come to that SCC meeting. They were notified in advance, and there was a little bit of a lobbying effort to prevent that effort from happening. And I thought that was completely inappropriate. Yeah. So we have individuals coming to lobby and play defense, and it's frustrating when you're trying to say, here is the ideals the party espouses. This is what the average person that wants to be a member of our party believes. And we're trying to hold people to that standard, and there's individuals impacting that. Yeah.
Do you, so with you being at Utah, right? A big Trump supporter. How do you feel about Spencer Cox going against Trump for so long and doing an incredible shift to now saying he wants to support, never said he was going to endorse him, and never said he was going to vote for him, but still showing so much love to Trump after he, for a long time, never did?
Well, I just think it's pandering. I think it's completely pandering. So Cox, it was a tight race, less than 10 points. That if you believe the results of the election, that Deidre certified, it's less than 10 points. And
Deidre, the girl,
the lieutenant governor,
whose job is on the line, right?
Yeah. Like, overseeing her own election.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And
I don't know. Yeah, that whole thing
kind of reminds you a little bit of Katie Hobbs overseeing her own election, running for governor against Carrie Lake.
Yeah,
and the ballot tabulators were failed. Well, here in Utah, look at Congressional District 2. There's thousands of ballots that when the ballots get mailed, they get mailed to. Why are we sending ballots across state lines?
Yeah,
and then have them get sorted and come back to Utah. If you're voting in Utah and you put something in the mail, it should stay within the state. And number one, in my opinion, and the other thing, it just highlights the need to get rid of mail-in balloting universally. Yeah. It's just not a good idea. But they disenfranchised all those people that put a ballot in the mail in rural Utah, right? And that mail might not get picked up every day in rural Utah. Maybe it's picked up every other day.
Yeah, and the fact that it went to Nevada, a bunch of them went to Nevada, and they were just forget about those. They're not satisfied. Like they're not okay.
Yeah,
it's like, why not? Like, go get him, bring him back, and see what it is. Like,
yeah. Well, and it's very interesting that that even transpired. And there's a few people that I've talked with that they didn't even get it. Utah's a universal mail-in ballot state. They were registered to vote, but they didn't get a ballot in the mail. One guy that I just bought flooring from, he has always voted for Republicans. He's a big Trump fan. In fact, when I went in to buy flooring, this company advertises on Glenn Beck's show. And I walked in wearing my black MAGA hat, and He said, right away, I'll give you 10% off, for your hat. It was incredible. It was super cool. We had a cool conversation, but they actually gave me 12% off for wearing a MAC hat going in to buy flooring. But the pandering to voting is just disgusting to me.
Yeah.
I appreciate that someone can recognize, hey, look, this guy's inevitably going to be the president. I want to try to work with him and keep the relationship positive. I can appreciate that. But someone that has, for years, he put a tweet up that said his wife had a dream about punching Donald Trump, and that might be, pose a problem come election time some years ago. And he's posted up that said, tweets about never Trump, or Mitt Romney was right, and Team Mitt, and kind of in the feud. And
a week before,
that's what I was going to say. A week before, he says that he's not going to vote for Trump, that he's going to consider writing someone in.
Yep.
It's kind of interesting that he says he's going to write somebody in.
He's endorsing.
Phil Lyman had a really cool tweet. Does that mean that he believes in write-in campaigns?
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Because it's true. He pretty much endorsed that writing, a person,
But no, the whole attempt on Trump's life, one, it's tragic, and I was shocked, and I was a wreck.
Whole world.
I was pissed, so pissed.
Yeah.
And there's so much content there that we still don't know everything. There's a lot coming out, but I think it did organically, try to unify people into, okay, I'm going to support this guy. If they're trying to kill this guy to prevent him from getting into office, there's something there that they don't want to have happen. And they didn't want Elon Musk to buy Twitter and have all the Twitter files come out, and all of the nefariousness with our government colluding with big tech to censure conservative speech. They didn't want that to happen, but it came out and it proved what was going on. And Elon said that it was a crime scene that he purchased with Twitter. And if Elon's seeing that, and the public has seen what was released on the Twitter files, and thank you to everybody involved there. for finally confirming and what the conspiracy theorists have speculated for so many years and saw and believed. But the whole idea with Trump, the attempt on his life, unifying people, getting people to come out like Elon Musk. I don't know that Elon would have full on endorsed Trump had Trump not got shot.
Do you think the whole, I don't know, the whole pandering about Cox, it's just so, it's sad to see somebody not be authentic. Of at least saying like, hey, I didn't support this for a long time, but it's let me just bend my knees. Like for what? For the voters that you didn't support at the beginning? Because he did call Trumpers extremists.
Yeah. Oh, he called not just Trumpers, but even people that may not like Trump. He called the whole delegates of the party extremists.
So it's like, what does that tell you?
Yeah.
Are you saying that you're an extremist now?
With Brian King running for the Democratic nomination and to be the Democrat candidate for the general election, and Spencer Cox presumably, if you believe the results again, being the Republican nominee, I think what Cox is really trying to do is he's trying to box out the possibility of a write-in campaign because a number of Republicans, there's a poll that the Salt Lake County Republican Party put out. 38% of Republicans were planning on voting for Joe Biden in the election. And it takes me back to Jim DeBacchus encouraged Democrats, a former elected state senator that's a Democrat, encouraged Democrats to infiltrate the Republican Party so that they could have an influence over who the Republican nominee was. And again, this comes back to accountability, that we can't hold these people accountable and kick them back out of the party because, whatever reason. We've tried to bring forth censure. They don't let us. And so there's a number of things there with DeBacchus encouraging people to affiliate into the Republican Party. A lot of those voters are presumably going to be voting for Brian King that are elected that are members of the Republican Party. So
they will shift from his, because of primary, they probably shifted to be able to vote because they don't want someone like Phil Lyman to win, right? Now they have to go back to their own roots as a Democrat, so they won't be able to vote for Cox. So he'll lose that opportunity. So what does he have to do? He has to pander to the people that he did not like.
I think that's it.
So it's so true what you're saying, that he feels he's thinking that Lyman probably is gonna do a write-in campaign, probably, right? So he thinks, how can I be able to beat him to the punch?
Yeah.
But he doesn't understand that people like you who really love Trump see through him like a fucking...
Yeah, I mean, it's not hard to see through Spencer Cox. He's lied. I mean, Joe Biden lied his entire political career, right? And there's numerous stories. The media used to do articles on it before the media was propagandizing the public, right? Yeah. The media would chastise Biden for lying and plagiarizing and stuff for years. Yeah. Well, Cox is doing the same thing, lying to the people. I'm reminded of Jason Preston, where Cox for years has talked about making Utah the first smart state and smart cities being a part of his agenda. And Jason Preston goes to the convention in 2023 and asks him about smart states and smart cities, and Cox lies to his face, pokes him in the chest, and tells him that it's good for him. It's good for his I can't remember exactly the words that he used.
He's a conspiracy theorist.
No, he said that it's good for Jason's brand to tear down Cox and to make him look, make Jason look better. And in reality, Jason's just there asking a question, wanting an answer from an elected Republican. Yeah. And Cox is just lying to his face. Yeah. Do you think Trump ever read Spencer Cox's letter? I don't know. I read Cox's letter, and as soon as I finished reading it, my first thought was, who the heck does this guy think he is, trying to tell Donald Trump how to campaign for office?
That was never a, hey, I hope you feel better. It was a, hey, you should change so then I can look better. You know what I mean? Like he was telling him how to change. It was like, why?
Yeah, it was It was gross.
Yeah, it was kind of just like, hey, do this. So me switching back to you, doing the flip-flopping looks good. It's like I helped you change. Like,
well, hey, I mean, Cox learned flip-flopping from somewhere, right? Who's been the biggest flip-flopper in Utah for years? Well, that's Mitt Romney.
Very true.
And, that whole wing of the party flip-flops like crazy too. Yeah. It's like they teach it how to flip-flop in school. Flip-flop 101 is like a course they teach or something.
So what do you think with everything happening in Utah and the political side, how do you think we can be better?
Yeah, well, one, I think it's not let an issue die. When there's an issue that's a problem, like, be a hound dog. Go after that issue. Get an answer. Get a result. And number two, it's hold accountability over elected officials. And part of that, it boils down to like the precinct strategy. Dan Schultz wrote a really good book called Precinct Strategy. Getting an activist in every single precinct and building community again. One of the things that COVID really killed was the community. No. Right? The community aspect. You don't see people going to the city park anymore and doing community barbecues. I mean, it happens, but it's really, really just sparse. And, building the community and getting to know your neighbors and who your neighbors, informing your neighbors of issues. One thing that's really frustrated me as a newcomer to the political movement is the Republican Party. It's not normal for the party to hold a precinct meeting after convention. I don't know that it happened anywhere.
Yeah.
And we hold a precinct meeting, or a caucus to elect a delegate. And then that delegate goes and vets the candidates, spends a lot of time, and then that delegate votes for that candidate. And then that candidate is the party's nominee. Yeah. Well, it should be a normal process, in my opinion, for that delegate to then go give an after-action report to the precinct that elected that delegate to say, here's who I voted for, and here's why. Yeah. Show their work. Right? Like a math problem when you're in school. Yeah. You can say if you got the right answer, cool, but how did you get the right answer?
True.
And for that delegate to go and convey a message of how they came to determine that Phil Lyman was the best candidate, or Trent Staggs, or Mike Kennedy, or what Frank Mylar, or Rachel Terry, all the candidates that came out of convention. How did those delegates determine that was the right answer and go and convey that information to their precinct, to the registered Republican populace? Yeah. And to me, that seems like a normal procedure that should be happening as basic common sense.
What do you think is going to be next? What do you think is going to happen next? Right? We have. Cox is the supposed nominee, like he's the official nominee. Does it end there? Because I feel like half of Utah is left confused and doesn't understand what's going on because half of Utah cares for Phil Lyman. Mm-hmm. What do you think is going to happen next?
Well, I've had some conversations with Phil that I'll kind of need to keep confidential for now, but with things, educating the populace is going to come next. There's going to be a really big push to educating the populace and make that be a reality where, we'll have a caucus, meeting to elect a delegate, and then we'll have a after action, a wrap up or something. I want to make that be a normal procedure. Yeah. And I want to affect that. Yeah. The other thing that I think will come next is, the organization that Phil kind of announced, the Lyman Group.
Ooh, the Lyman team? The Lyman Group.
Lyman Group.
Okay.
Yeah. So really just go through and help facilitate the training, because there's been a vacuum really of training people here in Utah. And, I've mentioned this before, but everything with SB 54 and the origins, with things pertaining to like count my vote, and everything there is nuanced, and it's really tribal knowledge. Unless you're ingratiated in things and you pay attention, you have no clue what's happened on the back end, because it's just, there's so much detail. And so really just articulating that, what Count My Vote was, that was financially supported by Gail Miller and others, and what Keep My Voice was, which was kind of that counterpart that was financed by like Dave Bateman and others, to, hold, or I guess tell the story, right? Tell the story of what happened so that people understand the political landscape of why SB 54 is a problem. Yeah. And who was behind it. Because, you want to clear the mud out of the water. You don't want people that are going to come in and flip-flop and pander to votes and try to win people over.
We want consistency.
Yes, consistency. If somebody really has a change of heart, I'm reminded of Brandon Strach with the Walkaway movement. If somebody has a change of heart and they're really gonna start espousing different principles because they've realized the wrongdoing of their ways, I will be the first person to say, hey, let's welcome this person into the fold. Yeah. But I mean, you kind of have to see the change of heart. You can't just say you've got a change of heart. Yeah. And we've not seen anything from Cox to say that he's had a change of heart. And right? We've not seen anything from John Curtis to say that he's had a change of heart. No. This is a guy that also was then commenting on the Trump, the Trump shooting, right? And how upset he was by it. But John Curtis voted for the J6 committee. Yeah. So, in terms of what else will come, I think some education and some events to help that education.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like since the beginning of this political stuff, I've fully supported Phil Lyman because he never changes. Yeah. What you see is what you get. Uh-huh. That guy has been the same ever since I went way back to see who he really was since the beginning. Yep. And it's been the exact same person. Never pender, never switch side, never flip-flop.
Well, if you look at Chad Booth, the guy that has had the TV show County Seat and then has At Your Leisure, he'd interviewed he interviewed Phil, I think in like 2012 or 2014. Yeah. And he's saying the same stuff that he was saying then now. Yeah. He's very consistent, and it's just his audience has grown and his influence has grown, and his influence now is massive.
It's crazy now.
And I think that just continuing to educate the people on what some of those issues are. Why are elected Republicans trying to use taxpayers' dollars to fund a stadium for a billionaire? Yeah. Or why are elected Republicans trying to use taxpayer dollars to build LGBTQ centers in Utah?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, it's
stuff that a lot of people don't know, and a lot of people don't really understand the land issues in Utah and how energy abundant we could be with nuclear energy and the precious mineral resources that we have at our disposal that are in global demand, not just in national demand, but in global demand, like uranium. Yeah. And how kind of precious that is. And Phil understands those issues very, very, very well, and he can articulate them extremely clearly.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about Phil, that even with the Lyman group, it's like you can tell that he never, it was never his intent to become governor. He just wanted to clean things up. Like, that's the crazy thing to me. Like, why can people see that this guy is really still fighting for the people, not for his career or his own things? It's like, no, for the people. He cares about the people. Yeah, I've been around that guy, and it's like, bro, I'm that type of person who I never pander to one thing. It's always left, right, and I would want to have Cox here and talk to him like, what the hell is your mindset like, right? He'll never come on here, right?
Yeah, he'll hide from the press. He'll hide from the media.
100%. So, but I've been around and I've looked into it, and I'm like, is this guy really who he says he is? and like I can't find any holes. That's who you get. Who you see is what you get. So it's hard to not support somebody like that.
Well, the other thing is I've had conversations with Phil as well with, like I in my heart believe that, you know, your personal ambitions need to take a backseat to the movement to reclaim, you know, control of government from, you know, the establishment wing, because it is a deep cabal of tentacles that have a stronghold on Utah. Yeah. Prime example of that is, you know, how quickly did everyone under the sun come out and censure and condemn Natalie Cline after a mistake that she made?
Yeah.
I mean, it was like lightning speed. Everyone in like weeks was condemning it. And, you know, one of the things that really frustrated me was our party's executive director has a call with Natalie. And in that call, he strongly implies that the party wouldn't support Natalie Cline if she won the primary nomination in the general election. And he didn't have the authority to make that call. No. The party never voted on that. And he said that, well, the party's got a special session that we've called, and he implies that we're going to review her actions in that special meeting that was called. That special meeting wasn't called to have anything to do with Natalie Cline. That special meeting was called so that we could iron and hone some things out with the conventions committee that we had, because the conventions committee was kind of selected. It wasn't elected. Yeah. And, you know, we wanted to hold a vote on who that conventions committee consisted of. And that's why, you know, individuals along with myself and other individuals really, really organized that push for that special meeting so we could vote on who that conventions committee consisted of. Now, the other thing that's really evident of this established, you know, cabal is you know, who is Deidre selecting to be her, you know, temporary designee for, you know, overseeing her election. What's Greg Bell, the former lieutenant governor that was Herbert's lieutenant governor before Spencer Cox?
Wow.
You know, she's not saying, you know, hey, Republican Secretary of State from neighboring state, you know, you can be, you know, can you oversee this? Or, you know, state senator, you know, Republican state senator that's not up for re-election, can you oversee this? No. Or, you know, something like that. It's somebody that's kind of been in that clique, you know, before, the former, you know, he was involved with Envision Utah, you know, that whole organization. And the more you dive in, you see the same people. They're all, you know, the same people are around with this organization and that organization and this organization. And, you know, you can't but notice, hey, you know, it's these same people driving the ship. Yeah. And the coolest thing about Phil is he doesn't care to be the ship captain. He'll be the ship captain if that's what it calls for. But he'll also row the ship if it needs to be rowed. Very true. Yeah. And that's what I believe as well. And so there's just a really good alignment of our belief systems. That you know, he wants that movement to succeed. He wants the ship to get where it needs to go, whether he's captaining it or whether, you know, he's the Commodore, right, with a army of ships, or he's you know, on a row or raising a sail. He's there to serve the people, and he's there to serve the interests. He's there to serve the movement. Yeah. And what's not to love about a guy like that?
Yeah, and that's what I've told him, that this movement is bigger than him now.
Oh, 100%.
Like, that's the crazy, and he's super happy about that, because it's never been about him. Yeah, it's been about the people and the movement. You know, so Casey, thank you so much for being a part of the show, bro.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah, maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, you got a lot of things to say, so you'll be around.
Yeah, I'll be around. You can find me on Twitter at Gale_Casey. Oh yeah, and you know, we'll stay in touch.
Oh yeah. So to you guys, you could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're right here with us right now with Casey Gale and your host Maikon.
Yeah. Thanks.
No, we can't chill. Not yet. We got to tell the people You know, one thing that I always tell the people, bro.
Okay.
And they don't listen. I don't know why they don't listen. And I keep, you know what I'm saying? I keep telling them, and it's crazy, but guys, please, from the bottom of my heart, stop cheating. There's a lot of cheating going on, Casey.
Ooh, yeah. We got to stop that cheating.
You have to, bro.
I, in my heart, believe that the election this year in Utah, there was some cheating going on.
Okay.
We got to stop it.
You got to stop. Any type of cheating, too. You know, relationship cheating, people cheating on themselves, not doing the proper research, you know, and just blindly voting for people, blindly doing things in life. There's a lot of cheating, bro.
That's true.
And it darkens your soul. You know?
That's true.
So I'm a big, big advocate of stop cheating.
Yeah.
You know? So it's a lifestyle.
I believe that too. I believe that we do need to stop cutting ourselves short, holding ourselves back. You know, at the end of the day, you know, I'm a Christian. I believe when you stand before God, you're going to have to answer for things. Ooh. And, you know, all of those little tiny things that you cheat yourself out of or you cheat someone else out of, you'll have to answer for.
Bro, I've had this thought, I think last week was, where I believe that once we get to heaven and we're with God, everybody else is going to be there, right? Everybody who's died in the judgment day, everybody's going to be there. And we're going to, you know, because he has some crazy power, that we're going to see everything that I did and everything that I've done, we're going to see it in a group.
Ooh.
And my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother.
So the spotlight on everybody all the time.
Oh, no, so let's say it would be like a second of boom, I'll know exactly what I've done, and everybody else around me will see that too. And they'll look at me. Ooh. And then everybody will be like, yeah, that was not a good person. And then they'll vote you out. You know?
Like Survivor. Don't give that guy the rose, vote him off the island.
There will be a vote system where
Survivor,
it's like, this guy does not deserve to be there, you know? But then we'll be able to see it, so it'll be more like fair, right? Something we need more of, fairness in this world.
No, 100% we need fairness. But really truth. We need truth. We need authenticity.
Yes.
Right? People gravitate towards something that they know is real.
Yeah. Very true. Well, with that being said, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Love you guys. Drink water, stay safe, and go to sleep early. Something I need to work.
Are you trying to get your catchphrase down like Mr. Rogers?
Yeah, bro, I got to do something better. Love you guys. Peace out.
Thanks.
Thank you, bro, really. That was dope, bro.
Oh, that's dope.